Welcome back to the briefing. There are two numbers that define the underground war being fought beneath Tel Aviv and Tehran right now, and the gap between them is not a tactical detail. It is the fundamental asymmetry that makes this conflict unwinnable for both sides. Number one, 6,000 square meters. That is the size of Site 81, the electromagnetic shielded intelligence facility built under the Hakeria military complex in central Tel Aviv, with American financing and engineering. A bunker designed to survive electronic warfare attacks and maintain communications even if everything on the surface goes dark. Number two, 5 meters. That is the dispersion radius when a Khorramshahr 4 cluster munition opens at 7 kilometers altitude and spreads approximately 20 submunitions, each carrying 2.5 kilograms of explosives, across the surface directly above that 6,000 square meter bunker. Let that sink in. You can build the most sophisticated electromagnetic shielded command center in the world, staff it with 70 personnel monitoring screens. In real time, employ thousands of soldiers working 24-hour rotations, and engineer it to survive anything except the one thing that makes all of that irrelevant. The surface above it becoming a kill zone where ventilation systems, communication nodes, and access points are shredded by submunitions that were never designed to penetrate the bunker. They were designed to make operating from the bunker impossible by destroying everything the facility needs to function. Stay with me, because this is not about bunker-busting technology or deep penetration weapons. This is about the strategic obsolescence of underground command architecture when the adversary stops trying to destroy the bunker and starts trying to suffocate it. The Khorramshahr 4 missile carries a 1,500 kilogram warhead across 2,000 kilometers. In cluster configuration, that warhead does not create a single impact crater. It creates a saturation pattern that turns dense urban areas like Tel Aviv into zones where every square meter within the dispersal radius faces submunition impact. Here is how the physics works. At 7 kilometers altitude, the warhead casing separates and releases approximately 20 independent submunitions. Each submunition weighs 2.5 kilograms and contains its own guidance system that allows terminal adjustments during the final descent. The dispersal pattern is not random. It is calculated to maximize surface coverage across the target zone. In a 5-meter radius dispersal, 20 submunitions can saturate an area larger than most building footprints, which means the target is not a specific structure. The target is the entire surface above the underground facility. The ventilation shafts that bring air into Site 81, the fiber optic lines that connect the facility to surface antenna arrays, the reinforced access tunnels where personnel enter and exit, the emergency egress points designed for evacuation under attack. All of it exists on a surface that can be carpeted with explosives that do not need to penetrate reinforced concrete. They just need to sever every connection between the bunker and the world above it. And once those connections are severed, the people inside can survive for hours or days depending on stored oxygen and backup power, but they cannot command operations, cannot receive intelligence updates, and cannot coordinate with forces in the field. And both sides are hunting each other's underground command infrastructure with the same logic. On March 6, 2026, approximately 50 Israeli Air Force combat aircraft delivered around 100 bombs to the underground bunker beneath the leadership compound in central Tehran. The bunker was completely destroyed. This was not a lucky strike or a penetration weapon test. This was the culmination of years of mapping conducted by Unit 8200 and Unit 9900, Israel's signals intelligence and visual intelligence divisions, who documented every corridor and entry point of that facility. Unit 8200 intercepts communications, tracks electronic signatures from equipment inside the bunker, and identifies patterns in how personnel move through the facility based on signal traffic. Unit 9900 analyzes visual intelligence from satellite imagery, surveillance footage, and human sources to build three-dimensional models of the underground structure. Together, they create a complete architectural understanding that includes wall thickness, support column placement, ventilation routing, and power distribution. The precision required to coordinate 50 aircraft delivering 100 bombs to a single underground target means the attackers knew the structural layout well enough to calculate exactly where each bomb needed to impact, to create progressive structural failure that would collapse the entire facility. The bombs were not dropped randomly hoping for penetration. They were placed in a sequence designed to compromise structural integrity at load-bearing points so that the weight of the earth above the bunker would do the actual work of crushing the facility. That level of intelligence cannot be acquired from satellite imagery or signals intercept alone. That is human intelligence from sources inside the target country who provided architectural plans, construction details, and operational schedules, including when senior leadership would be present in the bunker. Now consider what happened to the mobile missile launchers that fired the Khorramshahr 4 missiles at Tel Aviv. Between day 1 and day 6 of the conflict, ballistic missile attacks dropped 90% as a result of US and Israeli operations targeting mobile launchers inside Iran. Day 1 saw approximately 90 ballistic missiles fired. Day 2 saw 60. By day 6, the rate had fallen to approximately 20 per day, but the lethality of the weapons increased. The first wave used older systems with single warheads. The later waves used Khorramshahr 4-cluster configurations and advanced terminal guidance that made interception geometrically more difficult. The reduction in volume was not operational success. It was the attackers adapting to attrition by concentrating remaining inventory on the most destructive weapon systems available. And here is what that attrition cost. The United States Navy sank more than 30 Iranian naval vessels and declared the Iranian Navy combat ineffective. That designation is not rhetorical. Combat ineffective means the force can no longer conduct coordinated operations, lacks the capability to defend itself, and poses no strategic threat to opposing naval assets. 30 vessels eliminated in 10 days. But eliminating the Iranian Navy did not stop the missile attacks. It did not stop Hezbollah from launching drones and rockets from Lebanon. It did not stop Iraqi resistance forces from firing their own salvos. The naval campaign achieved total tactical dominance in one domain, while the war continued to escalate in every other domain simultaneously. In the first 10 days of fighting, more than 500 ballistic and cruise missiles were fired along with more than 2,000 unmanned aerial vehicles. 40% targeted Israel, 60% targeted American military positions across the region. The distribution reveals the strategic priority. Iran is not primarily trying to destroy Israeli cities. Iran is trying to make American military presence in the Gulf unsustainable by forcing the United States to expend interceptor inventory at a rate that cannot be maintained indefinitely. Every Patriot missile fired, every THAAD interceptor launched, every Arrow system engaged represents inventory depletion that must be replaced through supply chains that stretch back to factories in the United States operating at peacetime production rates. And the human cost is mounting in ways that official casualty figures do not capture. On March 1st, a missile carrying a 500-kilogram warhead collapsed an underground civilian bomb shelter in Beit Shemesh. 9 people were confirmed dead. The air defense interceptor was fired but missed the target, exposing gaps in the defensive network that no amount of additional systems can close when the incoming volume exceeds intercept capacity. Across Israel, 1,619 people were hospitalized. 87 remain in treatment. 10 civilians have been confirmed dead. In Iran, more than 1,300 civilians have been confirmed killed, including 194 children. Military personnel losses are estimated to exceed 3,000. 7 American military personnel have been killed across the Middle East theater. These are not statistics. These are the accumulated casualties of a conflict where both sides are targeting command infrastructure, population centers, and military facilities simultaneously with no defined objective beyond degrading the adversary's ability to continue fighting. And the economic impact is cascading exactly as predicted. Crude oil prices exceeded $115 per barrel as a direct result of disrupted maritime shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and damage to energy infrastructure across Gulf states. The price spike is not temporary market volatility. It is the market pricing and the reality that a significant percentage of global energy supply transits through a waterway that is now a combat zone where naval vessels are being sunk and ports are being struck by missiles. Now here is the detail that reveals how deep the intelligence penetration goes and how fragile the information control has become. After a missile struck the Vinci apartment complex during the 12-day war in June 2025, the entire area was closed to media. The damaged zone was isolated, and to this day, both Google Maps and Yandex maps have censored satellite imagery and street views of that specific location. The damage was significant enough that 2 major mapping services implemented permanent censorship to prevent public analysis of what was hit and how badly it was damaged. That is not normal operational security for a residential building. That is the information signature of a strike that revealed something about the underground infrastructure beneath that location that both mapping services agreed to hide from public view. And that brings us to the leadership transition that occurred while this war was already underway. On March 8, 2026, Mojtaba Khamenei was appointed to replace his father Ali Khamenei, who was killed in a strike on the first day of the war. Mojtaba has no public office, no military rank, no governmental experience visible in any official capacity. He inherited a war his father did not start, and a military apparatus that has already expended a significant portion of its ballistic missile stockpiles. The question that determines everything about the next phase is whether targeting discipline logistical rhythm. And strategic direction can be maintained under heavy American and Israeli bombardment by a leadership structure that has been decapitated and replaced with someone who has no prior command experience. The Fortress of Zion, the deeper and newer military command center beneath Tel Aviv, is designed to track attacks in real time during active conflict, with approximately 70 personnel at screens and thousands of soldiers working in shifts. During the March 2026 fighting, this underground command infrastructure was directly targeted by ballistic missiles, just as it was during the 12-day war in June 2025. The facility survived both attacks. But survival is not the same as operational effectiveness. If the surface above the bunker becomes a kill zone where personnel cannot safely enter or exit, where communication lines are severed, where ventilation systems are compromised, then the bunker becomes a tomb where the people inside can survive but cannot command. And that is the strategic trap both sides are in. Israel can map every corridor of Iran as underground bunkers and deliver 100 bombs with 50 aircraft to destroy them. Iran can fire cluster munitions that turn the surface above Israel as command centers into dispersal fields, where submunitions destroy everything the bunkers need to function. The United States can sink 30 Iranian naval vessels and declare the Iranian Navy combat ineffective. Iran can fire 20 missiles per day at a reduced rate but with increased lethality using the most destructive systems in inventory. Both sides can degrade each other's capabilities. Neither side can force the other to stop fighting, and neither side has defined what victory looks like or how the war ends. The censored maps tell the story that official statements cannot. Google and Yandex both agreed to hide the same location in Tel Aviv. That agreement required communication between the mapping services and government entities, approval at corporate levels, and technical implementation of permanent censorship. The fact that this happened means the strike revealed infrastructure that both sides agreed the public should not be able to analyze. The streets that remain closed around the Vinci complex, the damage assessments that have never been published, the satellite imagery that has been scrubbed from commercial mapping platforms, all of it points to the same conclusion. The surface war and the underground war are being fought simultaneously, and the information war to control what the public knows about the underground war is being fought just as aggressively. What happens when both sides are hunting each other as underground command centers with perfect intelligence about structural layouts and operational schedules? What happens when the leader who must maintain targeting discipline and strategic direction inherited the position with no prior command experience while the war is already underway and missile stockpiles are already depleted? What happens when the economic cost of disrupted energy supplies pushes oil past $115 and the human cost exceeds 1,300 confirmed civilian dead, including 194 children? What happens when neither side has defined victory and neither side has a plan for how the war ends? The answer is not in the bunkers or the missiles or the censored maps. The answer is in the reality that both sides can destroy each other as infrastructure faster than it can be rebuilt. Both sides can kill each other's personnel faster than they can be replaced, and both sides are committed to continuing until one side loses the ability to fight. But losing the ability to fight is not the same as surrendering. It is the point where the war stops, because continuation becomes physically impossible. And we are watching both sides race toward that point with no mechanism to stop before they reach it.